You have made it to Parenting Traumatized Infants and Toddlers Myths versus Facts for 0 to 5. And so I want to tell you, of course, the age range for this training is 0 to 5 and what you can do to support caregivers regarding challenging behaviors from their young children. So I have gotten to know Dr. Gomez in the last, 30 minutes. I have heard great things about him from CalTrin. We love him over here. But this is the first time I've gotten to actually meet him. I say face to face because, we're virtual. So I am originally from Oklahoma. I'm a military spouse, so we move around. But originally, I'm from Oklahoma. We really bonded over some crazy weather stories. So I'm so glad I'm able to. I made a lightning joke, and I hope you got that earlier. That Haley's quick as lightning. But let me tell you a little bit more about him. So on this next slide, I want to read his entire intro because he has so much good stuff packed in here. So, Dr. Michael Gomez is a clinical instructor at Bradley Hospital Lifespan Institute, a teaching hospital for Warren Alpert Medical School at Brown University. He was previously director of the Adversity and Resilience Community Center, the ARCC, a child trauma behavioral health clinic in Texas, where he was also adjunct professor at Texas Tech University, Psychological Sciences, the Texas Tech University College of Education, and the TTUHSC. That was a lot of letters, and I got through it. I'm so proud of myself. School of Nursing. He was previously faculty at the Center on Child Abuse and Neglect Child Study Center, Department of Developmental and Behavior Pediatrics at the Oklahoma University Health and Sciences Center. So there's our little Oklahoma tie-in. And Dr. Gomez specializes in trauma-focused CBT, treatment of adolescents with problematic sexual behaviors, or PSBs, PCIT, target, and assessment of autism spectrum disorders. He is a nationally certified TFCBT trainer and a nationally certified CE CERT trainer, which is a model for addressing burnout and vicarious trauma in providers that I think we all should be listening to. Because I want you to keep doing this work and it's so important. He is a co-chair for the National Child Traumatic Stress Network's Trauma and Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Work Group. So I know that that seemed like a lot, but it's just a little bit of what he does and what he's so good at. And so with that, you are so tired of probably hearing my voice. I will turn it over to Dr. Gomez.
Well, thank you very much, Casey. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna have you do my bio for everything because that actually sounds like I know what I'm doing, which is very far from the truth. So, all right, folks. Well, one thing to keep in mind as we're getting started, I will, you got the handout for this presentation because I'm going to go on and off the slides. So I apologize if that gives people Zoom whiplash. That is my fault, and I apologize in advance. But this is me. I do that. And um, Casey's right. I was one of the co-founding members for the Trauma IDD work group of the national network. I do a lot of work with like PCIT, TFCBT, things like that. Um, I also like long walks on the beach, the smooth stylings of John Coltrane, and pleasant Saturday mornings. Okay, that's me. So, all right, and now we're going to talk about all the horrible things that can happen to very young children. So, because we're going to do that, look at the koalas. Look at them. Aren't they cute? Are they like the most adorable little things in the world? Don't they look like they live off a diet of peanut butter and hugs? Come on, are they the most adorable things in the planet, right? Yeah. Okay, so just go back to the koalas when it gets a little too dark. Okay. We have three goals for today. First, I want to go over how this stuff impact trauma impacts our littles. Okay. Then I have this pet peeve about when people say the word trauma informed, because it's like a catchphrase like synergy, right? And so we're going to define that in very simple language. And then I really want to spend a lot of this presentation giving you some stuff you can do with your kids, with the families, for like case managers, advocates. You should usually leave with tools. One of my frustrations in presentations is I get a lot of maybe good data, but I don't know what to do with it. So you'll get data, but I want to make sure you get some stuff to do. Okay. And thank you, yes, thank you for putting your name also in your location in the chat box. Also, if you know, per Casey, if you're a first timer or you're returning CalTriner, either one, we welcome you. And I do want to go back to Casey's question of the day, which is the song that says summer for you. There were many good answers, a lot of Beach Boys. Good job, Alice Cooper. That was great. But the correct answer is lighter shade of brown on a Sunday afternoon. I don't know if anybody out there remembers that. Oh, I got a few people. They just went back. They went back. They went back to high school. They junior high more likely. Okay, yeah, that's my piece right there. Yeah, that was like all over the place. Like, I think if you're Latino, you are required to listen to that. I don't think you were given an option as a junior high kid, at least not in my generation. So, but great song. So, one of the things I was taught very early on, especially with this topic, was the following: to understand, quote, abnormal behavior, you have to understand, quote, normal behavior. And so that's going to be kind of a hallmark for any work, especially with our 0 to 5 kids. If you want us to know if something's abnormal, you have to know if something's normal, right? You have to know that you have to kind of have the mark there. Because if you have like a 17-year-old versus like a 15-year-old, kind of there's some developmental differences, but not really a lot. They can be kind of negligible in live fire, interactions. But if you have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, that's night and day. They was it like Leo Tolstoy said, like I grew more in the first 5 years of my life than in the next 50, something like that. So there's some very good resources out there, like American Academy of Pediatrics is one. There's some really good stuff, just for general kind of like, ages and stages kind of stuff. And a lot of you took probably a developmental course in like graduate school or an undergraduate, and you remember none of that. Nobody remembers Bronfenbrenner or PJ. You remember the thing like with the water with PJ, and that's about it. But you don't remember any of that. Okay. So I'm going to give you the stuff that you actually need to know for your job. Okay. So, broadly speaking, if you work 18 and under, you have 3 stages you're going to run into in this order. The very young kids, we call this egocentric, A plus B equals me, concrete, A plus B equals C, and then your kind of tweens and teens, A plus B equals Y. And I'm going to go through those stages one at a time. Okay, so here we go. So the first stage, the stage we're mainly in is egocentric. 0 to 5 is usually egocentric. And the rule for egocentric is A plus B equals me. That's most 4-year-olds and many, many 40-year-old men. But that's not the point of today's talk. Okay. And so the short version for this stage is that if you are in this stage, any event that happens you will think it's caused by you. And this isn't just trauma or stressful events, okay? This is anything. So actually, me and Casey's bonding over Oklahoma storms. One of my friends, his son was 4 at the time when they were living in central Oklahoma, which is a lot of storms. And there was a big hailstorm and it was basically shattering the glass. And so my friend went the other direction. The kitchen was on the opposite side of the house where the hail was not coming from. He's not watching his little 4-year-old, which is not something you want to do when a 4-year-old is running around. And so the kid's about to run back into the living room where all the glass is falling. And my friend is he's almost in a panic. He's like, "Oh my God, my son's about to get shredded." But his son stops at the threshold of the doorway, looks up at the sky, and yells, "Stop it, God." That's a very egocentric thing. And here's why he did that. Me and the big guy talk every night, right? It's the big guy. And there we go. Like I do my prayers with him every single night. Like, so I got a direct main line to this guy upstairs. That's very egocentric. I can control the weather, right? Because I'll just tell God to stop it, to cut it out. And so you cannot argue kids out of anything in this stage, partly because their analytic skills and their frontal lobe are just not developed yet. That doesn't happen until late adolescence. And so there's some really strong argument that 20s are when it really kind of locks in. The thing you have to do at this stage for anything stressful, anything distressing, be physically present and comforting. It's okay, mijita. It's okay, corazón. Cálmate, mijita. Cálmate, right? Some of your abuelas did that, right? Some of you, like when you were upset, they just calmed you. They didn't try to fix the problem. They just were there present and calming. And that's kind of the vibe you want to get. And again, this is just basic attachment theory. This isn't like a psychologist trick. We're going to talk about PCIT a little bit later, or PC cares. That got that out in California, which is amazing. And that's the whole reason for its first half of its model is to help kids co-regulate with the caregiver, which kind of implies if you got a dysregulated caregiver, You got a dysregulated kid. Um, and so that's one of the things that, like when we do disaster response, the things we tell parents is how you are coping is how your kid will cope. So if you're a train wreck, we need to get you stabilized, get your feet underneath you, sometimes literally, and then like your kid will follow suit. So kid work is parent work, is what we're trying to say. Which probably you didn't need a PhD to tell you that. Okay, you probably figured that out a long time ago. Okay, but it's one of the kind of core things, and especially with this stage. Now, the next stage you enter, this is usually like mid elementary, maybe up to junior high, is, and Irma's right, co-regulation is the name of the game, Irma, is A plus B equals C. This is concrete. Anything proximal will be causal now. So it's moved outside of the individual and now it's anything proximal. So one of my mentors who taught me this does a kind of a thought experiment. So I want everyone in the physical environment you're sitting in right now, I want you to just look around your room or your office. Just look around it really quick. Okay, you got it? Okay, cool. If you did not just see it, it is not causal in your universe if you're in this stage. This is the correlation equals causation phase. So here's the my go-to example. Miss Phelps, Diana, and Destiny are laughing at me. Now, a good fifth grade teacher will handle this kind of intuitively. What Miss Phelps doesn't know, as Michael's fifth grade teacher, technically what Michael doesn't know is that Michael's body is still holding the physical stress from the domestically violent incident he saw that morning before he got on the bus. But I'm not at home anymore. So the thing that I see that's proximal is Destiny and Diana are laughing. So that must be what's causing this. They must be laughing at me. But again, a good fifth grade teacher would say, huh, Michael, thank you for telling me. Let's check on this. Let's be detectives. So Miss Phelps would go, hey, Destiny. Hey, Diana. Hey, Miss Phelps. I have a question for y'all. Yeah, Miss Phelps, did one of you tell a joke? Oh my God, Miss Phelps, Destiny told like the best joke. Really? Would you mind telling Michael the joke, Destiny? Yeah, Miss Phelps. They do this very concrete leading down stage. And so that's because that's the thing that Michael thinks is causal. It's not causal technically. The stress from the domestically violent encounter that happened that morning, that happens every morning in his house, is what's causing it, but he's not there anymore. So that's not causal. Again, you can't logic them out of this, but you really do have to give very concrete data like Miss Phelps would do. Let's go over here, let's do it a step at a time. And the repetition, especially for this phase, that's your key factor. Repetition, 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 repetition. That you're any of you who have like a 7 or 8 year old kid, you have to repeat yourself all the time, don't you, parents? It's annoying and you want to pull your hair out, but that's why you have to do that because that's the biggest thing here. Also, the calmness and directness of the caregiver of the adult primary attachment figure is the biggest one. And so we want to, so we at the National Network we are big fans of we want you to say the correct anatomically names of the private parts: penis, breast, buttocks, vagina. If you work with tween boys and you do this activity, penis, breast, buttocks, vagina. Now laugh. Now keep laughing. John, you're not laughing enough. Okay, you need to do at least 15 minutes of laughter once we say these words. Okay, let the giggles out. But so we want to be very clear. All right. Part of this also is for safety. Like, what do you call this on your face? A nose. What do you call this right here? An ear. What do you call these on your chest? Your ooh-oohs. Yeah, there's all these cutesy names for that. And this becomes part, like, actually, Casey's background as a forensic interviewer. Yeah, well, I don't know what to do with ooh-ooh. If a forensic interviewer gets like, he touched my penis, then like, great, we got a case. We're like, we got it locked in. Now, the rule of thumb for this stage, if you're going past 10 words, you lost them completely. That's the good rule of thumb to keep in mind. You can forget everything else I told you. Haley and Casey will be extremely mad, but I'll be cool with it. But for this stage, just remember that 10 words. After 10 words, 11, word number 11, you lost them. And again, let's go back to Miss Phelps and Diana and Destiny. Hi, Diana, 2 words. Hi, Miss Phelps. Can I ask you a question? 6 words. Sure, Miss Phelps. Did one of you tell a joke? 7 words. By the way, watch like a good like third, fourth, fifth grade teacher. You'll see them be very tactical with their language. They don't use a lot of like bells and whistles. It's very clear. And yes, Kayla, just to cover out all the stages. So the last one, which we're not going to spend that much time on, is abstract. This is your teenagers. And so these, again, this is not the topic, the point of the talk. I just want to make sure to give you all the stages for kids before we go into like the egocentric one. Um, and part of the reason is a lot of therapeutics, and this is the therapeutics work, but a lot of them are based in this stage. So they're based with like teenagers, and so you can't do that. You got to make sure to match it with the stage, which is why kids in the very early stage are we want to be very present and comforting. So that kind of implies the whole point of this, actually, to Kayla's point, the whole point of this is talk therapy with a 3-year-old is a little one-sided. Okay. And so, and also therapy without a caregiver. Notice I did not say biological parent because for a lot of my kids, the biological parent is the most dangerous human being on the planet for them. But with a caregiver, a safe adult, that's also because of what we just talked about, essential. So we want to make sure that there are these very relational attachment-based components, but that's not just the therapist talking to them or the provider, it's the provider basically teaching and enhancing the caregiver's work around that. And so, um, yeah, actually, yeah, Clarissa. Um, and we'll get to that too. Now, kids 5 or younger hear the myths I hear. They can't do any treatment. They can't do therapy. Well, they can only do behavioral modification. They can only do play therapy. You have to have like the most specialized training in the world to work with very young kids. They don't have enough high IQ to function, or like you can't do CBT because they don't have thoughts. These are complete myths. Um, by the way, that last one kind of bugs me because I don't, has anyone, when people say that, like, well, they can't do evidence-based treatments because young kids don't think. My reply is, have you ever met like a young child? All they are thoughts. They can't organize them because their frontal lobe isn't like fully cooked yet, but all they are thoughts. And by the way, try to just, if you don't believe me, try this with the next like 3 or 4-year-old you see. Just like, Melissa, what did you do at daycare? There was a bug, and I don't know why Erica is has a purple shirt, and I saw Namie over with near the frog, and Miguel likes hot dogs. You sound schizophrenic. And every 5-year-old is schizophrenic. They also all have bipolar and they're all sociopaths. Most of them grow out of it. It's totally cool. But yeah, that's just developmentally appropriate for that age range. But they 100% think they just don't organize it in that particular manner that we would expect from an abstract level. Okay? Now, these are the PTSD criteria. Please do not memorize these. But these do match on, and we'll show you when we get to TFCBT later in the presentation. We do get very young kids, like 3-year-olds with, thank you, Anna, that means a lot to me. 3-year-olds who do have PTSD, that does happen. And so we will have some plans for you for that later in the talk. But keep in mind that this was a diagnosis made on veterans that this was originally vetted, and they have made some modifications, not a lot, but a couple. But some things I want to point out for this is please don't memorize this. This is not quals or comps. You don't need this for like you don't need to memorize this. I want to point out a few things. You see this one, the second one on the B cluster from the bottom, traumatic play. Okay, here's what that is not. Billy has the frog in the sandbox, which represents the womb, and the frog is the father figure. No, he saw the Muppet movie. He likes Kermit. That's all it means. Nothing more, nothing less. That traumatic play, especially with young kids, you'll see that a lot with younger kids versus like a 17-year-old. The age range we're talking about, you'll see that a lot more. That symptom looks like something I'm guessing the majority of people on this Zoom have seen, but it's not trauma. It looks like autism. And so here's what I mean by that, to go off the slides for a second. Had about 5-year-old little boy came to our clinic. A lot of domestic violence this kid witnessed, dad beating the crap out of mom. And if I let him do this for 50 minutes, he would do it, but I'd have to stop him or he'd do this for 50 minutes. He'd go to the little dollhouse we had in the playroom. Boy doll, girl doll, like sorry, boy doll, girl doll under the bed, daddy doll, mommy doll. With this look on his face, by the way. It's dissociation is the correct name for that, but that looks autistic, doesn't it? And so, I do a lot of work with autism for this reason is because I get a lot of misdiagnosis of autism versus trauma and vice versa. I deeply respect our child welfare workers. They have a lose-lose job. It's an impossible job to do that they're given. But a lot of workers that I get will say, "Hey, Dr. Gomez, uh, Michelle has autism at home, but not at school." And I have to explain to the worker that autism isn't like my uncle's left rotator cup. Like, when it gets rainy outside, my autism flare right up. Right at his shoulder, get a little autism when it rains. Like, that's not how it works, okay? It's pervasive. Like, it's all across all environments. So it doesn't turn on and off. This might be a little too into the weeds, but I think y'all would appreciate it. When I'm actually training people to differentiate autism versus trauma or both, I say autism is a dimmer switch. Trauma that looks like autism is a light switch. And here's what that means. If you have autism and trauma, then the autism will get better with lower stress, lower triggers, or way, way, way worse when you're triggered. So, trigger presents, right? The stimming increases. Trauma just goes on and off. Like they may do that, but then when the male person with the goatee, and I know this does not help with my work with kids, leaves the room, goes away, gone. It's a light switch. Okay. And you can see where some of our systems, like our medical system, like psychiatry, nursing, they don't see the kid multiple contacts. It's also why I talk to people in this audience because most of you have multiple contacts. You can track this across time. Like, hey, I noticed, Dr. Gomez, that once you left the room, Jonathan's like his eye contact goes back to normal, which would not happen. Autism is there or it's not. You got it everywhere, you got it nowhere. And so that's an important thing to think of. The other symptom I wanted, the other cluster I wanted to look at, especially with little kids, this E cluster. You see this one, arousal reactivity. Here's what this looks like behaviorally. Ready? In the chat box, tell me what you think this diagnosis looks like, besides me needing to use the bathroom. What diagnosis does that look like? Oops. What does it look like? Yep. Gary and Becky, Jess, y'all got ADHD, right? And so now you can have ADHD and trauma and PTSD. Doesn't Your trauma doesn't make it better, but again, I've seen kids as young as 3 get an ADHD diagnosis, and again, every 3-year-old has ADHD. Every single one of them. Uh, that's not telling me anything. And so, also, bipolar is another one that people will say, right? And again, if ADHD medication usually like stimulants, but bipolar, the medication is nail driving, hardcore medications. And one of the roughest things I saw was a 3-year-old in the state of Missouri on Depakote, a extremely high dose of Depakote. And that was a licensure. We had to call the board and revoke this guy's license. And I know Riley is probably thinking, "Oh my God, is he okay?" Riley, the physician is okay, Riley, please. She's like, "Is his family okay?" Riley, they're fine. He got relicensed in Ohio. I kept track of this guy, and he's still practicing. So do not worry, Riley. He's like, "Oh my God, is he all right?" Riley, he's fine. We're going to continue to talk, but know that he is okay, Riley. Okay. Yeah, that guy's on my list. Okay. So the whole point of this talk is PTSD does have some advantages for this age range, but you can see in the middle it's a little limited, especially with the D cluster, like negative moods and cognitions, persistent exaggerated beliefs of self and others. That's kind of hard for like a 3-year-old to do, right? And so because of some of the limitations, because a lot of limitations of PTSD diagnostics, the National Network a long time ago, we created this diagnosis, developmental trauma disorder. This is the one that is way, way more applicable to your age range that we're talking about. And it goes across, it goes up to the other stages too, concrete and abstract. So it doesn't just stop at this stage, again, which is why I talked about all three. But you can see it has some much more different emphasis. So one is exactly, Clarissa. And so, Erica, they don't need know what to do with one of me in Texas, okay? So they don't need more of me. So they have no idea what to do with one of me here. So like PTSD is usually for things like that happen to you. Developmental trauma is things that happen, but also things that failed to happen to you. Mom left me with Wela when I was 2 months old, and I never saw her again. Or things that aren't easily taxonomized, like emotional abuse, which we're finding out is extensively toxic. So it's trying to add this in. And so it also gives a much harder focus on dissociation, which can look like autism, as well as instead of looking at like ADHD symptoms, they look at things like can you have like even a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old can have goals, right? I want the cookie. That's actually a goal, and self-protection or lack thereof. The thing I really like about this diagnosis is the D cluster, because I work a lot with kids who like sexually act out. It's a very treatable problem because it's a behavioral problem. It's not a paraphilia. It's not like pedophilia. It's behavioral. Kids you run, that's a whole separate talk, by the way, but it's something that we can factor in as part of their trauma. Also, to kind of take it outside the 0 to 5, I'm very, very upfront about my personal history of lived experience, and the D cluster is the one I still struggle with. I think I've gotten the other ones okay, but I still struggle. Like this is as you run those of you who work with teens run into this by far the most, and so um, like here's my example. Like I take those red flags down in relationships, paint them green, hoist them right back up. That's what I do. Yeah, Rory. Every girl has four burner phones, right, Rory? That's just women these days, right, Rory? Michael, no, no, no. Yeah, Rory. Every girl knows every bartender in a 50-mile radius, right, Rory? That's just how ladies are, right, Rory? Michael, don't cut all your apps, dude. I'm worried about you. Yeah, Rory needs to be my safety plan because I don't know what I'm doing out there, okay? And I'm working on it. I am working on this stuff. But yeah, that's it. The relationships. My favorite example from one of my teens was Dr. Gomez, I know he'll be a good boyfriend because he already has 3 kids and he's a good dad. Ooh, child. Ooh, child. We're gonna have to work on that. Um, with the littles, you don't get that, but you do get things like they're way too close, they're way too this is also this D cluster. Some of you who probably caught this already before I even said it. If you're thinking about reactive attachment, this is kind of where it is. We actually don't like the term reactive attachment. We do like the term disordered attachment because we don't think it's a thing that's wrong with the kid. We think it's wrong with the dyad. Something fell apart with the dyad, usually the caregiver part. So it means that disorder means singular. Like if you have ADHD on a desert island, right? Like coconut. But like so this is where these disrupted attachment, that D cluster really hits them really well in a way that reactive attachment usually doesn't. It's just too nebulous. And so this incorporates a lot of stuff you probably run into, but it gives it a much more, to me, kind of common sense kind of way we can deal with, and is very good for this age range. Now, I will keep my promise. What does trauma-informed care mean and not mean? This is again one of my pet peeves. People say this a lot. Are you trauma informed? Do you know you're trauma informed? How about you, Sandra? Are you trauma informed? How about you, Stephanie? You trauma informed? And nobody knows what it means. So we're going to define it right now. Being trauma informed means the following. It means you stop asking one question and you start asking 2 questions. Here's the question you will never ask again if you're trauma informed. Valerie, what is wrong with you, young lady? What is your problem, Valerie? We will never ask that question again. Here's the question you ask from now on. You ask 2 questions. Hey, Val, what happened to you, kid? What have you been through? And question number 2, you ask Valerie, what were you supposed to get that you didn't get? Most kids are supposed to get a parent who's not addicted to Oxycontin. You did not get that, and you did deserve that, Valerie. You're supposed to get that. I was raised old school Roman Catholic, sins of omission, sins of commission. It's also why I feel guilt for things I could not possibly be responsible for. Just never, yeah, never got through that. But now the best example I have of this, and Irma's right, change the perspective, change the reality. And so and actually with Erica too, I like trauma competent way more than I like trauma informed. One of our TFCBT developers, Judy Cohen, if you want to make her upset and you meet her, tell her you want her to talk about trauma informed care. She hates that term. And I agree with Eric in the chat box. I like the newer terminology because I think it gets at what we're trying to talk about. Is like this more competency approach. The most traumatic example I had from shifting from question one to 2 questions is the following. Um, I had a kid 9 aces at 16. This kid hit CNN. That's how high profile it was. So he had crapped out at every school in the surrounding counties because he was very aggressive. I would be too with 9 aces at 16. And we had an angel of a child welfare worker who got him into a private Christian school. Most of you on the call know that they're not beholden to like IDEA and things like that. So the vice principal was holding the line because this principal wanted him out. He's aggressive, he's defiant, he is rude. But the VP, she was holding the line. So a year to the date of when he was literally found in a dumpster, like a sheriff's deputy found him in a dumpster, almost dead. And a year to the date, we're having a review meeting, an all team meeting. By the way, my boss's boss was at this meeting. That's how high profile. Like we had someone from the governor's office there, and the VP was supposed to represent the school. Her son broke his arm that morning, so the principal came. I had from the lobby to the conference room to prep him on a year of this case, and couldn't obviously. So it started off with our head of pediatrics who did the original examination. By the way, by the time the principal has met this boy, he's obese. When they found him originally, he looked literally like a concentration camp survivor. His ribs were sticking out. The man also found out why this kid wears long sleeves even in Oklahoma summers. Mom never hit the face. Everything else, scar tissue, burn tissue. So the MD is going over just the medical aspect of his trauma, just his beatings, his burnings, his like torture. And I look at this man, his face is white as a sheet, and I'm whispering so I don't interrupt the meeting. I say, Mr. Smith, are you okay? And barely above a whisper, this poor man, he says, I'll do anything you want. And by the way, the only reason I let this man drive back to his school because it was about 2 miles away. The second I called the front desk because I talked to her a lot, and I said, "How's Mr. Smith?" She goes, "What did you do to our principal?" Like, I didn't mean to do it. Okay, I felt bad. I really did feel bad about that. The whole point of this is after that meeting, here's what this man did. Most dramatic shift from one question to those two. A teacher would come up to him and say, Mr. Smith, I think Billy is being a little rude and a little aggressive in our classroom. And this is what this man would do. He's like, oh, you know what? That's interesting you say it because you know what you're going to do? You're going to work it out. You're going to figure out a solution to this problem and you're going to make this work because you have no idea what this young man has been through. He would like get into staff say, right? It was like amazing. I was like, damn, son. And like he just was a night and day shift. And right, yeah, he deserves that. I did apologize later to this man. I saw him later, obviously, and I said, in the treatment, I said, Mr. Smith, I swear I did not mean to ambush you at that meeting we had, back 6 months ago. And I'll never forget his reply. He said, I didn't know this world existed. It does. And he goes, "Is this what you do all day?" I'm like, Someone has to pay someone to do it." Yeah. But yeah, and so that was the thing. It's that one question to those two questions. If anyone knows the name Bruce Perry, he wrote a book with Oprah Winfrey called "What Happened to You." It's basically this conversation, and it's a great book. I would recommend it. Also, Oprah's a national treasure. Okay, just like pure and simple, she's a national treasure. I will read anything that Oprah gives me to read. I'm sorry, I'm just a slave to Oprah. And so, but it's this question, and it's done in because Oprah's an interviewer, done in interview style, so it's very readable. Because sometimes Dr. Perry can talk very high level that kind of the rest of us normal people can understand. But it's about this idea of what happened to you and what did you not get that you were supposed to get. So that's great, Irma. You got a great supervisor. The one of the resource I would highly recommend, especially if you're working across the age span, this is for a little bit older kids, but I just at least want to share it, is this one, rememberingtrauma.org. This was made by it's part of the National Center for Traumatic Stresses materials, but it was made by Dr. Cassie Cassell out of Northwestern. Yeah, Randy, the Boy Was Raised by a Dog is, I think, an amazing book. I think that was his first one he wrote publicly, at least. Um, this also talks about historical trauma, racial trauma, cultural trauma, intergenerational trauma. You see this racial trauma right here. It talks about a lot of stuff, kind of on the other side of the age span, but I think it would be interesting to the people on this call. It also has the reason I'm mentioning it, and then we will move on. It has a line that I think Dr. Cassell says, which is traumatic stress is the great imitator. And I use that line a lot. Uh, and here's what that means. Traumatic stress is supposed to look like everything but traumatic stress. ADHD, depression, GAD, OCD, autism, learning disabilities, pediatric obesity, migraines, stomach aches, joint pain. It's not supposed to look like trauma. And um, and I use this line a lot because I work. a lot with educators, and I've been doing this job about 25 years, a little bit over 25 years. I know I don't look old enough to be doing that, but evil doesn't age, is the whole point of that. And so when I'm talking to like a teacher, like a 30-year teacher, not all of them are female, but the last one was, and here's what she said. She goes, Dr. Gomez, I think I know a thing or two about children. I've been an educator for 30 years, Dr. Gomez. And what I want to say to that woman, and I don't, and I'm very proud of myself, is, you can do something wrong for 30 years. I cooked eggs wrong for five, then the next girlfriend showed me sunny side up, so I do it right now. For 5 years, I cooked eggs wrong. So I don't say that. What I say is, Miss Smith, traumatic stress is a great imitator. Its only job is to get by a 30-year veteran in education. It's really good at its job. Once it does that, you're toast. It's got you until someone figures it out. And so I was at a conference in, I think, Pittsburgh. One of my friends I worked with at the Oklahoma Medical Center, he does pediatric HIV cancer research, and we were at separate conferences. It just happened to be in Pittsburgh simultaneously. So I ran into him, and later that night we're chatting, having dinner, and I tell him this line, traumatic stress is a great imitator. And he says, that's a lot like HIV. Like, I'm not super familiar with the HIV literature. He goes, oh, HIV is photosensitive. Like, he goes, oh, take the human immunodeficiency virus, put it on a petri dish, expose it to sun and air. It dies kind of fast. It's not a robust virus. Like COVID is a robust virus. It can survive a lot of environments. And so, Irma, you and my mother are the only ones who say that. So I appreciate it though. And COVID is very robust, but HIV is a very gentle, delicate virus. That's why spit doesn't transfer it, tears, sweat. But if it gets in you, fluid to fluid, it's in you, and it can do a lot of damage. I said, actually, yeah, that is a lot like trauma. Once it's in you, it's in you. I also like that because, again, maybe I'm showing my age, but in my generation, HIV was a death sentence. Now it has been reclassified for a while at this point as a chronic illness. It's so we got such good treatment that we can manage it and people can live long, happy, full, great lives. And I think trauma's kind of had a similar journey, which is like, yeah, you got this, man, you stuck. Also, keep in mind, maybe a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I was raised, in West Texas, born and raised in West Texas because I committed a sin in a past life. I don't know what it was, but it must have been something awful. But I was raised by my like Mexicano tios, my uncles, and who were Vietnam veterans. And so and I've taught one of my tios, my uncles, I said, hey, Theo, you believe in like ángeles y, diablos y brujas, curanderos. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah, mijito, believe in all that stuff, mijito. Cool. What about therapy? Oh, no. So I'm like a hoodoo man to my family, basically. They think I do like hoodoo all day long. So like try to sell therapy to for a 3-year-old, this is a tough sell, okay? And so I get that, as a Latino man, I get that. But it works. And it's like, but we have to kind of start here. Oh, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Uh, at me or with me, I'll take either one, Eric. But we have to kind of like introduce this idea of like, so here's an easy way to do that. Like my son doesn't have depression. Okay. Do they have tummy aches, headaches, sleep problems? That's an imitator, right? That's another imitator. Yeah, please get them to go to a pediatrician, but usually the pediatrician is calling me saying, Dr. G, we did labs, everything, we did a sleep study, nothing, man. I know it's traumatic stress, it's a foster kid, right? I didn't have to think too hard about that when you gave me the file. And so this idea of this is why I'm spending so much time on this slide. This is kind of your entry point, especially for your littles. It's an imitator. It's going to not look like trauma. It's going to look like something that doesn't look like it doesn't look like PTSD. It doesn't look like nightmares sometimes. Maybe, but we want to also get a broader scope of this. Now, before we go into the treatments, I want to kind of do kind of a broad view of what all good evidence-based treatment for kids look like, especially in this age range. So first, we want some type of symptom, tracking some type of symptoms. It doesn't have to be like an Achenbach or a Basque. Just like how many times are they throwing tantrums in a day? Mom, I need you to track that the next 7 days until I see you again. I'm cool with that. Anybody who has an ABA background, anybody who's school-based, that counts as assessment for us. We also want to give psychoeducation another the way that by the way, this is what we've been doing since we started talking is psychoeducation, orient you to a lot of this stuff. We still want to give things to manage your technique, like to like manage the stress. direct exploration of the trauma, I would say for a qualified provider. And I'd say in 0 to 5, you often don't even have to do that. As you'll see in two of the models that we're going to talk about, that isn't even the focus of the model is to talk. It's not forbidden. It's just saying we don't need to go into like this very deep dive of the trauma. One of the models it is. So sometimes kids do need that, but 17 versus like 4, usually we can do this with attachment and relationship. And the younger you get, the more important the red is with kids inclusion of a caregiver. So those of you who may not be, like who do like things like more like targeted case management or kind of you're a clinician case manager kind of thing. If you want to know if a clinician is doing actual effective therapy with a kid for anything, ask this one question to the caregiver. Mom, abuela, foster parent, what is the therapist doing with you concretely? And if they can't answer that in 5 seconds, then they're probably not doing anything that's going to be effective. Probably. I'm not saying it's for sure, but it's a huge red flag. And oftentimes we're just working with the caregivers. There was a study done in the TFCBT model, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that was three conditions. Kids and caregivers both participate in TFCBT was condition one. Condition two, caregivers only. They get the information like the stress management techniques, the psychoeducation, and then they try to implement them with their kid at home. And the third group was we see the kid once a week, an hour a week. Now, all of them got better because they all got trauma focused CBT, which is a highly effective model. So the question is who got bronze, silver, or gold? And so gold medal probably makes sense. Caregiver and kid participating together. Silver medal was caregiver only. In 20 weeks, the kid never walked into the clinic and they had more symptom reduction and improvement in functioning than when they saw the kid one on one, which kind of flies in the face of some like old school wisdom of therapy. But it shows that we lead with the caregiver. That's the whole point. If you take one thing from this talk, we lead with the caregiver. I will admit that I did not believe what I'm about to say for a while. I was told this in graduate school and I didn't believe it until I was licensed. But one of my supervisors said, caregivers are not the problem, they're the solution. And I didn't believe that. And I do now. It's worked for so long. My at the time I was like, they are the problem. They're causing the problem. Yeah. So kind of a short-sighted view I had, but it's like, yeah, you're the solution. 168 hours in the week. We would see your kid one. It is arrogant and disrespectful to think I can fix your kid in an hour. That's an arrogant thing I just told you, Mom. What's more intelligent is I dump my wisdom into your head and you have a trauma therapist forever. You are my only hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I cannot do this without you. If LeBron doesn't play well, we don't go to finals. Now, do we? I lost $50 on that game. Okay. Yeah, you're my LeBron, Mom. You're it. I need you in this game. So caregiver work, kid work is caregiver work, especially at this age range. And so that if you remember one thing, just take that there. This red is the crucial thing. Now, there's more than three effective ones, but I wanted to give you three different examples. They do therapy in a very different way. All of them are extremely effective. And thank you all for doing your job. Y'all are doing a very hard job out there. So I just wanted to give you some common themes. These are not the only three out there. There are tons of there's things like ARC. There's things like filial therapy. There's things like EMD. So many things out there. But California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse is a good place to kind of look for those. But I want to give you some three representative ones. Okay. So again, caregivers are the solution, not the problem. Now, when I talk to a lot of caregivers, I usually thank you, Haley. Yeah, Casey was right. You are lightning fast. I um I usually talk about what I call the three types of problems. And I usually tell caregivers, Miss Smith, I tend to deal with three types of problems. The first one is strep throat. Take a pill, you're done. See you later. That's not the type of problem your child has. I'm sorry. I'm worried you think your child has a second one, which is stage 4 lymphoma. They're terminal, and the best we can do is make them comfortable. Your child, I swear, does not have that type of problem. They have the third, they have diabetes. Okay. And diabetes, the reason I use diabetes as my go-to example is apparently every male member of my family gets diabetes. And my PCP said, let's hope you're 60 and not 40 when you get it. I'll take that deal. But I have the continuum in my family of diabetes. I have more than one uncle, multiple uncles who got diagnosed, went blind, lost limbs, died. I'm gonna eat what I want. I'm gonna drink what I want. Like, stop being Mexicano, dude. Just fucking be like, just stop, be my uncle, man. Don't be Mexicano for a second, dude. Just try to save your own life. Right? Yeah, you can do it. You got to take in time bomb. On the other side, one of my like my uncles, my uncle Junior, my Theo Junior is thank you, Armor. I very much appreciate that. Is he turns 98 this year, and I almost murder this man with cake every time I see him. But Theo, ¿quieres la leche, Theo? Mijito, mi zuc. Oh, you have diabetes. Sorry. Like, because he manages it so well. He got diagnosed at 60 on the nose. Totally cool. Now, the first 2 years were awful. He had to like give up sweets. He loves sweets, no tortillas, no alcohol. But after that, he was okay. And so even your worst case, like things like autism, things like that are like, wow, this is going to be chronic forever. It's diabetes. It's not stage four lymphoma, I swear. And something like anxiety, depression, those might be closer to strep throat. But I want to make sure the fans know we're not dealing with stage four lymphoma. By the way, I have gotten that question, well, what does that look like in a kid? And I'll give you my very honest answer. I don't believe it exists in kids. I don't believe it exists for anyone. I don't think we're terminal. It's not over till it's over. I think sometimes the best thing we can do, even in our most hopeless cases, our most hopeless like assignments, is hold hope open. Like there will be a brighter day. I just have to believe that. I'm not going to lose hope. You have lost hope, and I understand why you have lost hope. No, I just won't. I will not lose the hope for you. I will be the torchbearer until you can. And I think sometimes that's the best we can do. So I just don't believe it exists. I mean, it may probably does. I'm probably wrong on this, but I'm okay being wrong on that. So, but I have gotten that question before. It's like what does that look like? I don't think it does exist. So I'm dealing with diabetes or strep. And the things that I see as barriers for my caregivers are kind of three things I see, which is, oh, thank you, Z. I appreciate it. Thank you, Yasmin. Is knowledge gap. And again, knowledge is not a noun like who won a battle of Gettysburg. Knowledge is a verb, like how do you change a flat tire? And the thing I see most with the knowledge gap, especially with teachers, is I call them wood versus grease fires. And here's what I mean by wood versus grease fires. Every educator, I was talking to a team of teachers yesterday, and I had to explain this. Every educator I've ever met is trained to work with wood-based fires. And here's what I mean by wood-based fires. Jennifer, sit in your chair. I don't want to sit in my chair. Jennifer Mijita, you do not sit in your chair. You're going to lose a sticker. Fine, I'll sit in my chair. Thank you for minding, Jennifer. I appreciate it when you listen. That is the rhythm of an educator. That is the rhythm of a parent. Those are wood fires. Here's what you're dealing with trauma. You're dealing with grease fires. Jennifer, sit in the chair. Jennifer, if you do not sit in this chair, Mijita, you're going to lose a sticker. Boom! Tables like all thrown up. Yeah, you're screwed. And so, because Jennifer's a foster kid, and we didn't factor that into our particular equation. And so now here's how you deal with a grease fire. Okay. Jennifer, please sit in the chair. 1 to 10, where are you at right now? Okay, let's do one of those things that Miss Haley showed you how to do. Very good breathing, mijita. Good job, Jennifer. We use coping skills. Emma's right, it's a trigger. We use coping skills for grease fires. Now, the first question I got yesterday when I was talking to these educators is, okay, I get that idea. How do we tell a wood from a grease fire in real life? Like, and I say in real life with an actual fire, how do you tell wood versus grease fires? Hey, Maria, throw some water on it. What happened? It got worse. Don't do that again, Maria. That's it. So you can start with these basic behavior management techniques that most teachers especially know, but don't keep doing them when they're not working. That definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, right? And so, and in teachers' defenses, they get a hammer, everything's a nail. They don't get trained in CBT or DBT or any of these things that are code. They just get trained classroom management at best, even if they get that at all. So it's not that they're doing something wrong. It's just something they don't know, right? Rather than speak a language they've never heard. My job is usually to implement this and help kind of translate it to the schools, which is there's tons of that data, or daycare for our age range. But wood versus grease fires. The second one is an energy gap. Basically, your caregiver's burned out. And so this is why I like a lot of, we probably know that most of the caregivers we work with need therapy, right? We probably can agree that most of them need therapy at some level when they walk in our door, right? For the caregiver themselves. I apologize. A lot of caregivers need Jesus, but we will take an LCSW until he gets back. Okay. So yeah, but they won't do it because it's like, I am fine, Miss Washington. I am fine. Okay. All right, cool. We'll work with the kid. And one of my favorite ways to do therapy, especially it works best with littles, is I'll say, Miss Washington, I know you don't need to know how to relax, even though you cussed me out at that intake session. But oh my God, Casey, she's a train wreck, right? Miss Washington, she is a train. We all know. So since kids don't like homework, we're gonna make Casey a teacher, and you, Miss Washington, are gonna pretend you do not know. You do not know how to relax or how to breathe. Just pretend, okay? So Casey's gonna teach you, and you're gonna be the student, right? Through the mouths of babes, right? I did that with a foster parent with her 5-year-old, and she did do the breathing. She didn't fight it. And the it was a Thea, I was an aunt. And after she did like 5 minutes of the breathing, she goes, "Whew, I feel much better." Weird. I don't know how that happened. Odd how that works. And so yeah. And so yeah, through the mouths of babes. Like we want to get that. And Cindy's right. Like we hear it, like we hear that hour a week as therapists. We need some support for that. That's what we're talking about, secondary trauma. That's why that topic comes up. But yeah, imagine you live with this kid. Like I don't live with them, you do. So the energy gap makes sense to me. They're just burned. They're burned. And so part of our job is to help kind of regulate the entire family, not just the kid, right? This isn't a pill. This is family work. Um, the last one is what we call cognitive distortion. And that can come in the singular, like, Miss Herrera, my boy has bipolar. There's no washing that off. And then again, you could do if you like got CBT training, you can do some gentle CBT with dad. Like Clarissa could say, Mr. Gomez, there's something we might teach your 4-year-old a little bit later, in a 4-year-old manner, obviously. But what do you what would you say, again, not saying you believe this, Mr. Gomez, if you said my son has something called developmental trauma disorder, which is actually very treatable with the treatments we have there at our agency. Probably feel a little better. Okay, well, how would that make you act towards him or versus like not act towards him? Like, of course, it can kind of take me down that pathway. I was doing consultation with a therapist earlier today, and because I work across 4 time zones and I don't know what time I am at any given moment. Um, but she said, session one, mom, just hey, no, this therapy's crap, but just work with them, and like, which is not unusual for us to hear. But she did incorporate mom, like, hey, mom, I want you to know what I'm doing with your son. I'm like a strange woman. I shouldn't just be alone with your son for an hour randomly. And mom got that, so she did participate. She did the move I just said, which is like having the kid teach him. Mom's noticing improvement. And so she was adamant day one, the kid has reactive attachment. That's it. He has that. There's no getting rid of that. Now we're in the middle of therapy. She's like, maybe it's not reactive attachment. Maybe it's trauma. Yeah. At no point did the therapist try to shove that down the parent's throat, because you can't do that with cognitive distortions. You can't do that. You have to be a little more gentle about that. Right. And so she did it like proof is in the pudding. Like he's responding to the therapy. Your participation is huge. And so, and actually, of course, so kids with like Down syndrome, we do have examples of this, and a lot of it kind of goes back to education. But to Clarissa's point, I work a lot with kids with IDD. That really amps up that energy gap. Because they just have so many other problems. Just like the genetic testing alone you have to get in the frequency you have to get it for things like Downs or things like Fragile X. It's a lot. And so one thing I usually try to impart to providers is you're not supposed to be a lone ranger, no matter what your system says, especially with very young kids. You usually need other people. My most common example is a speech path. The kid's not talking. I don't care how good you are at therapy. Therapy's not going to fix like lack of speech. Like you need a speech path for that, or maybe an ABA for that. So we need to like look at a team approach. And I think sometimes, especially I live in Texas, West Texas, I have to duct tape my teams together. It kind of looks like a bank robbery movie, uh, where I'm like, Carolina, I got a job. Like, damn it, Gomez. You know I can't say no. Right? It's like that. It's kind of like that. I approach by OT, by SLP. We get a team together. It's like Ocean's 11, but with kids. And so we're helping them. And like that's what I have to do because that's like where my criminal behavior as an adolescent pays off is I can just con people into like helping me to help kids. And it's like, yeah. And so but like where I like to work, like things, places like Oklahoma, places like Duke, Michigan, we have a whole team already set up, like in a hospital or in a CMH or something like that. That is not the norm though. And Clarissa's right from the parent perspective, it's a lot of work, and we gotta acknowledge that. What I usually see parent, it's not that parents like are mad at you, they're just burned. And so they're like, do you really know what I have to do on a basic day to day, right? That's why, like, and again, people, I will get the question, Dr. Gomez, do you have your own children? And my reply is none to my knowledge. Wait, do you know something? Do I got to contact my attorney? Okay, it's a horrible reply, and please don't use that. But what I tell them, by the way, even if you do have kids, it doesn't buy, it buys you like 5 seconds. Carolina, do you have children? Yeah, I have a daughter. Do you have a 5-year-old FASD? Go like, no one has that kid, man. So it's not that like I have to know exactly your experience, but it's like I know you're exhausted. I know you're tired. I know you're like, and this is we're here to support you as a family, not just like, and the IDD families I tend to work with, I can get this from the medical perspective, but it's still a problem. They're like, oh, we'll take your kid in, we'll do the workup, and it's kind of like you're basically the kid's chauffeur. Like they don't kind of include you. The better places do, but it's like we're here to do the appointment, right? The better providers, they like, hey, Miss Herrera, I'd like you to come in and see what we're doing with your son. I think you're an important part of his development. And I had one OT do that with a kid, actually with Down syndrome, and the parent was blown away because like every other OT in the system takes the kid, does the thing, lets him go. And the parents like, wow, like this is just different. I like this. Like I like knowing what my kid's doing, getting tools. It's the families I worked with, parents of kids with IDD, especially young, they're wonderful to work with. Like they're very motivated. They're just very tired. That's the only thing. They're not like mad at you. They're just like, I'm exhausted, man. I got like 3 hours of sleep last night. Exactly. So these will pop up, these particular um, not deficits, but particular kind of problems that we're seeing, and we want to make sure that we're cognizant of them as we're going into particular, especially things like formalized treatment. So I do want to spend the rest of time talking about the actual treatments because I it sounds like I'm dancing around them, so we're going in there. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is PCIT, parent-child interaction therapy. On the West Coast, you have a cool iteration of this called PC Cares, like you care about a kid. Love this stuff. Huge fan of this stuff. Yep, thank you, Erica. Yeah, PC Care, love it. My mentor, her mentor is the person who created PC Care, Robin Gerwich. And so we love it. So PCIT is like the full version of this. If you only have access to PC Care, you're golden. You're totally cool. So if you have access to that, you're good to go. But parent-child interaction therapy is one of the ones I was trained in. And this particular thing right here on this title slide, here's what that means. Um, I had a mom who we were doing PCIT with, 4-year-old little girl, and in her defense, she had just ripped up the daycare that mom had picked her up for, and the daycare was probably going to kick her out. And we're trying to do a PCIT session, and mom cannot do it. And we so I pause the session, pull her into the observation deck, and mom is just so angry she can barely talk. And I say, Mom, what's going on? She's like, I can't do, I can't. She's just through gritted teeth, barely gets a sentence out. And I say, Mom, I think what your thought is that if my daughter's symptoms go down, I like her more. Exactly. You like her more, her symptoms go down. And then she gave me the middle finger and walked out of the building. And she came back. She was okay. It was totally fine. But yeah, it's not the first time I've been flipped out that week. But that's the whole point of that is, and this is not just a trauma thing or a young kid thing. My go-to example is all of you have a boss that you have had or maybe currently have that you love. They're like your favorite boss, your favorite supervisor ever, and they could ask you to do the wildest stuff in ever. Like, hey, Yasmin, could you go to San Diego and get me a set of left-handed golf clubs? Like, hell yeah, man. I love to do that. I haven't been to San Diego in a minute. I love to go get it. Like, yeah, you're in Bakersfield. And it's like you're going to say, like, yeah, you would do that for that one person, but you probably also have a boss, hopefully do not currently have a boss that you hate, like your worst boss. And they could ask you a very, very reasonable thing, and you might get attitude. So like, hey Erica, can we have that report by Friday at 5? Yeah, I can do that. That's a reasonable request, but like the boss is just an awful boss. And so even a normal request might get some attitude. So it's all, again, this is relationship, this is attachment stuff. This is, we want to make sure to shore up the attachment bond. And that's why I really like PCIT and PC care, because what it assumes is if you put any tension, like most people want to say, just get them to listen, just get them to sit in the friggin' chair, Dr. G. Like, well, if you're gonna give a command that puts pressure on a relationship, it's a request, it's a demand. It puts some pressure on the tensile strength of the rope that's attaching you. And so that rope, the harder the request, the more requests you have, better be able to hold like 2 tons, man. Right now, your rope is frayed or flat out shattered. It's broken. Our job is to repair the rope or repair the relationship. Good question, Amanda. Originally, the age range for PCIT was 2 to 8. Now, with the current data it's had over the last 3 decades, it now goes from 12 months to 12 years. There's some application. What they like is for you to be trained in the original kind of 2 to 8 model and get experience there, and then you can branch out either or both directions. Now the 12-month one, look, it's pretty much PC care for the short run. The like what Erica put in the chat box, and thank you Haley for putting that in there too. And so, but it's actually expanded. Originally, it was for two to about 2 to 8, and to that point. That was the original one, but now it has so much more data. And some of the data that's very important is it has data with neurodiverse kids, especially kids with autism. And I think to Clarissa's point in the chat box, I think one or two with Down syndrome. One study. I'll double check that. Thank you, Haley. Man, Haley is on fire today, man. Look at her go. And so um and it also has, and I'll get to this in 2 seconds, multiple treatment outcome studies showing that if you are a physically abusive or neglectful caregiver and you do PCIT, you don't abuse or neglect your kid again. It's fascinating research. We're going to talk about it in about 5 seconds. The way PCIT works is it's a two-phase model, about 15 sessions, give or take, and it's two phases, child directed and parent directed. The parent directed is the limit setting, like commands, timeout sequences, things like that, sticker charts. And so, um, and oh no, this is all kids, Amanda, with trauma, all children. It has a lot of data for foster kids and adoptive kids, but it's every kid. Great question, Amanda. Yeah, this is just globally. And so, um, the phase one is the more attachment based phase. And a lot of times you'll hear me say when I'm doing phase one work, attention is to behavior as oxygen is to fire. There, um, the fire doesn't care where the oxygen comes from as long as it gets the oxygen. It just doesn't give a crap, just so long as it gets it. And so parents will often tell me if I'm doing full model PCIT, hey, Dr. G, can we just do phase one after phase? Can we just skip that? Like I'll do the phase one, but let me get them to listen. Give me the limit setting crap first. Um, Okay, by the way, that is an empirical question. And Sheila Iber, the original developer of PCIT, did that study, but she had to shut it down, so it never got published. And to Amanda's point, this was done on non-traumatized, non-foster, non-adoptive kids. But here's what the study looked like when they tried to shift it. And again, they had to shut it down. They couldn't publish it because they couldn't finish it. Here's what the study looks like. Ready? Irma, sit in that chair. If you do not sit, and you're like, oh, that looks bad. That looks abusive. And these aren't abused kids. That looks bad. We're shutting it down. And that's what it looks like if you don't. And the reason it looks that way, and you'll hear me say this a lot to parents, is um, parents will usually say, Dr. G, I love my boy, but I do not like him. And what I say to that parent is, Veronica, we don't like people who yell at us, who spit at us, who break our stuff, who don't listen to us. I think I'm a fairly affable person, Veronica, but if I started spitting and cussing at you, you probably would unlike me pretty fast. And that's not a Veronica thing. That is a primate thing. Primates do not like aggressive primates. It's hardwired into our evolutionary wiring. So that's why you can love your son but not like them. And so that's why you like them more, they go down. And so we have to start with that phase one. And actually, Erica's right. The reason for the shoot the other model, the evolution of PCIT PC care is because we found out, Dr. Robin Gerwich, my mentor's mentor, found out that's kind of all we need sometimes, right? It's amazing how much mileage you get with a good relationship, with good attachment. And so they just kind of said, maybe we don't need this. There's a newer iteration, which is just getting minted, called trauma directed interaction. So there's child directed, parent directed. In the middle, they put trauma directed. This is meant for traumatized kids, foster or not, adoptive or not, but kids with all any trauma history. And it looks a lot like what we'll talk about TFCBT in a second. It looks like coping skills, feelings wheels, all this stuff. And so nobody wants me to be their mentor or my trust me. Okay, nobody wants that. Okay, that just be like I probably think you get some golf clubs from San Diego. And so, but the phase one is where the money is. Okay. And I do want to talk about especially the physically abusive caregivers and the autism research, but to kind of drive the point home, I want to kind of show you what the CDI looks like, because that's where the money is. Okay. And Erica, you just you already knew the slide, didn't you? PC care is the do skills we call pride. And so, yes, Gelby, it is. FASD. We were using it with our FASD clinic at Oklahoma for several years, and I think there might be some studies. I got to look at that. I haven't looked at that in a minute. But yes, it is recommended for FASD toddlers, for sure, or alcohol related neurodevelopmental problems like ARND. Anything in that wheelhouse, Gelby? Yes, the answer is a hard yes. Um, we train you in do skills and don't skills in PCIT. We call the do skills pride. The don't skills is no commands, no questions, no negative comments. All right, Erica, are you saying that like I can never ask my boy a question? No, Mr. Gomez. 23 hours, 55 minutes of the day, you can ask him as many as you want, but during the 5 minutes of special time or the 1 hour we're doing therapy a week or PC care, you can't. It's just in that. That's all we're asking. Okay. Now, keep in mind that we observe the families, like we observe these. These are like task based. We got to actually see them do it. Um, had a mom because a lot of times parents are underreporting, not because they're lying, because they're just not aware, right? They're parents, right? And so like they may not like this stuff may not register because they're so tired. Had a mom, 4-year-old boy, brought in for PCIT because he was very aggressive. Not necessarily trauma history. He had some like dad was had some alcohol problems and that was traumatic, but there was a lot of other stuff going on. I asked mom, what is probably the biggest problem with your son? She said he says no all the time. I said, do you think you say no a lot? Not really. Okay. So people on the Zoom, numerically, take one guess, put it in the chat box. How many no's do you think mom had in a 5-minute coding session? How many times did you say the word no in 5 minutes? 30, 15, 10. Oh my God, you are so nice. Oh, nice job, Irma 50. Keep going. Okay, ready for the answer? 74. Yeah, Eric like got close, right? Catherine got it close. It was no, 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 no. Like there is no easy way to do that feedback, by the way. And I was like, you got 70, Chuck. I got 74. Do you want to see the video? Like, no, I trust you. And so we had to work on that, lowering the no skills, right? 74, but that was it. I always remember that number. Like, oh, Belinda, nice job, Belinda. I'm proud of you on that one. You too, Sean. Good job on that one. And so, but we can't just tell you to that again, that's very anti-PCIT to tell you not to do something. What do you do in place? And our answer to that is pride. By the way, they used to be called the DRIP skills, which is a horrible acronym, but we had to add in the E because we worked with postpartum depression moms and they were doing everything, but they were doing it like this. You have a block. You're doing a good job building blocks. And so we're like, okay, we need to like shift something. And so yeah, good job, Belinda. So the E may stand for enjoy the interaction. So praise, labeled praise. So unlabeled. Good job, Haley. Labeled. Haley, absolutely great job of putting the resources I'm mentioning in the chat box when I say them. That's phenomenal, Haley. Labeled. We want very specific, you know. And so yeah, we those were actually I think OU was one of the sites where we included postpartum depression, postpartum parents because this wasn't working. So we had to shift it to make it work. Which is the thing I like about the treatments I'm talking about is they respond to the reality. They don't try to hammer the reality into the treatment. They're like, it's not working. So we got to do something different and then test it to see if it's working or we just think it is. We should be held accountable that this stuff works. We want reflections. There's also positive side effects to these therapies. Positive side effect of PCIT is if you have a kid with speech problems, especially your younger kid, the reflection will help their speech. I have a ball. You have a ball, mijito. Ha, I will have ball. Yes, you really like balls. Oh, I like them. You do. You like them. That's what a good SLP would teach you to do anyway in speech pathology and speech therapy. We're just formalizing it as a skill. Imitate them, unless you have like a physical limitation. We have like older caregivers. Fun fact, folks, grandparents raising grandchildren is the largest demographic of foster parents in North America. And so, but short of that, we want you like you're drawing a dragon, I'm drawing a dragon. As simple as that sounds, we'll give you an example of why that's not as simple as it sounds, and then describe the behavior. The description I usually wait until like we're kind of into the model because this may not feel natural to caregivers, um, and so one of the grandpas I had with his kid was having a hard time with the lad. He got all the other ones, but he felt it just felt didn't feel right. And I said, okay, Grandpa, do you watch sports? He's like, you love sport, football, everything. I said, okay, you never see a sports announcer on ESPN during college football. The Badgers take the snap, and it's okay. They did good. Okay, and I said, tell me what the ESPN announcer would say. All right, the Bruins get the snap. They fall back to the 20. They throw a pass. It's a tight pass to the receiver. The receiver is at the 40, the 50. All right, we're gonna do that. So we did that, and the next time he came in the session with his grandson, he said, "Hey Billy, I want to be a sports announcer. You cool with that?" He's like, "Yeah, Dr. G told me to." Okay, and then he sits down next to the kid, and the kid starts playing. He goes, Billy Smith is the best block builder I have ever seen. He has a red block in his right hand and a blue block in his left hand, and he is now putting the blue block. And the kid ate it up. Oh my God, he like loved it. Uh, and Grandpa saw how happy he was from that, and he was good to go. Did amazing. Behaviors came down significantly after that, and yeah, he deserves those hearts. He worked really hard on that. And so yeah, and thank you, Catherine, for working that population. That's a primary one I work with. So I do a lot of foster care. But such a good example of the description. And so we want to make sure that they're getting these down. And with the 10-10-10 in formal PCIT, we want 10 descriptions, 10 reflections, 10 label praise, and no more than 2 commands, questions, or negative comments in a 5-minute coding period. That's it. That's our marker. The reason that's important is because a very smart guy at Harvard, John Weiss, asked simple questions that are very difficult to answer. And one question he asked is, what makes parenting programs that work different from those that don't work? Which sounds very simple, it's extremely difficult to answer. And especially since I work a lot with child welfare, this is a very live issue. So let's say that America is a child welfare worker. I do the 12 weeks at the parenting class. Miss Horn, give me my boy back. And America has to do it. And so now some of those programs are very good, some of them are junk. And Dr. Weiss said, what separates them? And technically, it's not evident, it's not a research study that separates them. The one big separating factor between those that work and those that don't work is direct practice. That's it, direct practice. So PCIT does that, Incredible Years does that, PMT Oregon model does that. Love and Logic does it too. Love and Logic groups usually do role plays. Because how fast can a caregiver screw up something like a praise, like which is the first step in pride? How fast can they screw it up? Thank you, Belinda, for taking out the trash. I do not know why, Belinda. It's a great. So I worked with this is more a teen example, but it illustrates the point. Worked with a caregiver. This was our whole session, by the way. Okay, so Miss Nunez, when something Belinda does that you want her to do, not be a jerk. Cool. That's a great first draft. I love draft one. Let's go to draft two. Okay, like she's not a jerk to me. That's not what I mean. I know that's not what you mean. Just do her chores. All of them? Yeah. What do you say? Like, good job. Here's a cookie. No. Okay. Throwing out the trash on Wednesdays, like I asked her to. Great. Okay, we're gonna role play that. I'm Belinda. I threw the trash. What do you say the second she walks in? Thanks, Belinda, for throwing the trash. I don't know why that's so hard. Okay, that's a great take one, Mom. I love take one. A lot of energy behind take one. I'm a big fan of take one. Let's go to take two. Take 14. Action, Mom. Belinda, mijita, thank you for throwing out the trash without me asking. It really helps me a lot when you do that. Oh my God, Mom. Beautiful. Take 14. Just for my sake, let's do take 15. I'll be Belinda, you be you, Miss Nunez. Action. Thank you, mijita, for throwing out the trash without me asking. It really does help me when you do that without me asking. Whatever, Mom. What you gonna do, Miss Nunez? What you gonna do now? That's it. It's a whole therapy. This reactivity. And so That's it. Now, one of the homework assignments for PCIT is 5 minutes of special time, one non-directive time, like Legos or color, not like we're sword fighting or we're watching a movie. Please read to your kid, but like we want something that they can actually interact with, right? And so that's right, Clarissa. They think they know it all. And so um, we had them on, and again, especially in PC care, PCIT, this is sacred. That 5 minutes per day with this kid cannot be violated no matter what they do. They can be a demon, but you cannot take it away. The only time you can take it away is if within the 5 minutes they like punch you or something. And the reason is, and then you'll just say, you hit mommy, so special time is over. It's extremely reinforcing for kids because it's one-on-one time with a parent. Again, we're about again going to go over again. Attention is to behavior as oxygen is to fire. So they rarely act out, although it does happen. But had a mom, we're in session 3 of PCIT. In her defense, the kid had torn the daycare apart. Uh, 4-year-old little boy, I think 3-year-old little boy. And mom calls me. This is like 5 o'clock. She's like, he's not getting a special time. He's not getting out. He can't get because he tore the daycare apart. And I said, Mom, you are your son's mother, and I will never second guess your decision as his mother. But we made a deal day one. You will not take this away unless he acts violently. And she's, I'm not doing it. Like, Mom, this is just this is it. What are you gonna do? And she goes, fine, F you, Dr. Gomez. I'll do your special time. Cool. Hangs up on me. And calls me the next morning, walking in about like 9 o'clock. She calls me. She goes, Dr. Gomez, like to apologize for my language yesterday. Like, Mom, that's not a big deal. It's not the first time I've been cussed out this week. What happened? Okay, short version. Mom did it. She said, like the first minute or two, I was like, yeah, blog. It's a good blog. Doing a good job with your blogs. She's like, I was still mad at him. He said about between minute 2 and 3, the kid puts down his blocks, she just looks up at me and he says, Mommy, thank you for loving me even when I don't deserve it. She's like, I burst into tears. It's like, I know. And I said, do you know why I asked you to do that? It's like, well, you're a doctor and you have to. No, 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 no. That's not the reason. It's not the reason because I'm a doctor. I know better. It's not the reason. Here's why. And this is this specific case. I said, when you walked in here, you said, I lost my son. I don't know where he went. Because she had just ran from a domestically violent relationship and her kid was just very aggressive. And she goes, I lost my little boy. I don't know where he is. I said, my grandpa would used to say, being lost is so very, very close to being found. We will find your boy. We will, I promise. And we did. We found him. I said, but until we get there, you deserve at least 5 minutes a day to see him again. It's the 5 minutes is not for the kid, it's for the parent. It's for you. You deserve that. That's the very least I can give you. And she did amazing in PCF. I fucking killed it in the model. But she needed to understand that this isn't just for the kid. A lot of parents say it's for the kid. No, it's for you. Yeah. Now, and again, PCIT has a ton of data on physically abusive or neglectful parents. And in part, in the last example I'll give, and then we'll wrap this up, go to the next treatment, is had a 20-year-old mom who aged out of the foster care system, 5-year-old kid, do the math. And we're trying to do praise and she can't do it. So I pause the session, bring her into the observation deck and say, Mom, what's going through your head? She's like, I can't. I said, I'm seeing you're having trouble with it. Why do you think that is? She goes, I never got it. I said, Mom, I believe you 100%. I just want to make sure I understand what you just told me. And you're telling me, which I do believe is in 18 years of childhood, no adult ever praised you. Yeah. I said, that may be the saddest thing I ever heard from a parent. Would you like to give that gift to your son? That's why I'm in here, Dr. Gomez. Okay, I can deal with that. I give her, and I did. She did amazing in PCIT. But yeah, you can now give that gift to your son. And so the next model I want to talk about, oh, thank you for putting that up there. Come here, buddy. There we go. Is CPP, child parent psychotherapy. This goes 0 to 5. That's it. This bottom is 0. Its top is age 5. I'm a huge fan of this model. Great model. And so you did Priscilla, that's amazing. And so they talk about learning the language of play, and I think there's probably no better way I can explain this to just basically show you an example of this. Okay, so
Child Parent Psychotherapy, or CPP for short, is a therapy for children birth through age 5 who have experienced really scary, dangerous, or violent things such as child abuse, so physical abuse or sexual abuse, or car accidents, or even experiencing things like being in a fire or a tornado. CPP is evidence-based, meaning that there is a lot of research behind the effectiveness for using this treatment with young children and families. We know that CPP is effective because of the research that we have. So treatment is conducted on a weekly basis. So children and families are seen by a therapist for weekly sessions. As part of the treatment, children and families are seen together. So one child and one caregiver may be present. CPP really aims to build skills within the family and improve the relationship between the caregiver and the child, and also to help the child heal from that scary, dangerous, or violent experience they might have had. CPP is wonderfully powerful and effective when in the hands of a well-skilled therapist to be able to really help these children and families learn.
In CPP with children, it allows us to speak their language, and the language of play. It helps parents to tune in, become attuned to what's going on in the present moment and what's in the room. It helps us to align with children in their point of need. And it also allows children and parents to continue to grow. It kind of restores and heals and allows children to get back to the business of being kids. One child really sticks out in my mind when it comes to CPP. It is a very young girl who had some really severe panic attacks, had difficulty when parents left the room. Through the process of CPP, she was able to use toys to just kind of convey what was going on the inside. And as she played, and the parents played beside with her, they were able to communicate in ways they weren't able to before.
We find it to be tremendously useful and helpful and healing for children to be able to speak what's been unspeakable before, or show through their play what's been unspeakable before, so that they can begin to heal and move through that traumatic experience.
Thought it'd be better for Karen and Janelle to talk. They're over at our Arkansas site. They're doing a great job over there. And yeah, I love this model. I'm a huge fan of CPP, and it's for especially our littles, like 0 to 5. It was originally created for kind of two scenarios, like homelessness, like poverty, and IPV. It's now expanded to many different domains: sexual trauma, um, disasters, physical abuse, anything, short substance use. A lot of parents were coming out of recovery. At some sites, especially the Arkansas site, will go into a CPP program, because similar to PCIT, you can't do what you don't know, right? A lot of these parents have they a lot of the parents I work with, they have sexual trauma going back to the Civil War. That's not a metaphor. Every generation, females were sexually assaulted, usually within the family, and it just kept going. And so you don't have the skills. You can't do what you don't know. And so it is similar in a way to PCIT, as they're kind of trying to speak the language of play, like you heard Karen say, and that it's the one thing I really like about this. Many things I like about this, but one of the very specific things is, um, they have an extensive cultural sorry, wrong slide, have an extensive cultural application. So you can do this in Spanish, you can do this in English, you can do this with different toys, different culturally loaded toys. Because I think a lot of things that get missed sometimes in therapy is the toys are culturally loaded, right? And so I think that's just to me a basic fact. I did not play with the same toys my Caucasian friends did. So I don't know. They did not have the bingo cards that I did. I'm just gonna say that much, okay? We had different bingo cards, and that was very noticeable when I went to their house. Okay, y'all know what I'm talking about, don't y'all? Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, gotcha. Got my people here. But it also, that idea of learning to speak, play like you're learning to speak Spanish or Korean or Farsi, is very helpful for caregivers coming in at very bottom level Maslow, that they're like, I don't know. It's very shameful, even with a newborn kid. Like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, most people don't, but a lot of people may have support that, we're going to try to be your support. And so the speaking play really helps metabolize a lot of the stress because it focuses on the parent and the kid. And it has a really nice benefit of this is a very clean way to draw a line in the sand across intergenerational trauma. When I have this conversation with caregivers, I'll say, Miss Gutierrez, I realize I'm asking you to Gandalf 5 generations of trauma in your family. Thou shalt not pass. And I know that's a huge ask, but I would not ask it of you, Miss Gutierrez, if I did not think you could do it. I know you can do this. I know when your grandkids are adults, they'll say, you know, like, Abuela, she was the strongest woman we ever knew. Abuela was like awesome, right? You will be the one who will change the generational course of your entire family tree. You can do it, right? This is how you do it. This is where you start. This is your Gettysburg. This is your line in the sand. Like, no, we begin right here, right now. And as simple an act as it seems, that's what it looks like. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna choose something different. Um, and so again, originally created for DV, homelessness, things like that. In it's really nice because sometimes in like when I do testing, there's standardized toys I can't switch out no matter the kid. CPP actually encourage you, like, no, switch it out. What you'll see a CPP therapist do is that they'll talk to the caregiver. Miss Robles, what toys do you play with your daughter? And we want to switch them out, things that are very specific to the culture, the family, like that Priscilla plays with her kid. The downside is this is like a solid year of therapy. It's like 50 sessions. But again, keep in mind, we're often dealing with generations and generations of trauma here. It's not just like a disruptive behavior thing. There's many generations of trauma. They're doing some pilot work. They've been doing it, but I think they're doing some more recent ones with immigration trauma because the immigration experience alone, let's not even like we don't even have to put in the stuff that's going on in the US right now. That alone is very stressful. And a lot of people are not they're just not even asking like, hey, was your immigration experience stressful? And so the so they're doing some stuff with that and it's looking really nice, looking really good. In a way, it's kind of stabilizing things back to baseline. And so we're real big fans of this therapy. Alicia Lieberman is the person who is the developer of CPP. She has a ton of resources, a ton of literature on her stuff. And if you, she actually the manual's on Amazon because everything is on Amazon. But and she has things like the emotional life of the toddler. But the actual manual is called "Don't Hit My Mommy." That's the actual manual, but a really good entry point into the CPP kind of worldview is this one right here, The Emotional Life of the Toddler. It's one of her more recent books, and it's really good. And it's not necessarily just for trauma or anything. Anybody as a toddler could benefit from this, but it's kind of some of Alicia's concentrated wisdom of her work in CPP, and why these stages are so crucial for development. And so I would highly recommend it to anyone and everyone, especially if you work with a much like 0 to 3 age range for sure. Just for sake of time, I want to make sure I cover the last one because sometimes I don't cover all my material, and I'm trying to be good about that this time. So TFCBT, again, young kids can think. Okay. Trauma focused CBT has a mountain of literature at this point, 30 years of data. We started our first RCT in 95. But sometimes CBT, like, I don't know, can we do this with a young kid? So would you all like to see what CBT looks like for a 2-year-old? Would people like to see what good CBT looks like for a 2-year-old kid? Okay, ready? All right. All right. Here's what good CBT looks like for a 2-year-old little girl.
Poo in your potty. Poo poo in your potty.
We gotta tell mommy when you need to pee. Tell mommy when you need to poop. Tell mommy when you need to pee. Tell mommy when you need to poop. When you pee pee.
On your potty.
We gotta poop poop.
On your potty.
We gotta pee pee.
On your potty.
We gotta poop poop.
On your potty.
You gotta tell mommy when you need to pee. Tell mommy when you need to poop. Tell mommy when you need to pee. Tell mommy when you need to poop. We gotta pee pee.
In the potty.
In the potty, gotta poop poop.
In your potty.
In the potty, gotta pee pee. In the potty, gotta poop poop.
In your potty.
Tell mommy when you need to pee. Tell mommy when you need to poop. Tell mommy when you need to pee. Tell mommy when you need to poop. And then you get a prize. And then you get a prize. And then you get a prize. And then you get a prize.
Yay, Janaea! Everyone give Janaea a hand. Everybody give Janaea a big, big hand. Yay, Janaea. All right, a few things about that clip. First, that's the cutest stinking kid I ever met in my life, and I'll have words for anyone to disagree. That's just a cute freaking kid. Okay. Second thing, I didn't see a triangle. I didn't see a worksheet. I didn't see a manual. Why is that CBT, folks? Why is that CBT? Let's break it down. Ready? Did you see any actions, any behaviors? Anybody see any behaviors in that clip? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you see any emotions? Yeah, we saw emotions, right? A lot of emotions, right? Did anyone see any thoughts or anyone catch what the thought is? It's a thought. Yeah, tell mommy when you need to pee. That's a thought. We call it a mantra, right? And actually, those three things don't make a CBT triangle. Consequences make one. Did anyone catch what the consequence was in there? Man, Cindy's on fire today. Then you get a prize, right? Consequences are always negative, right? That's it. Then you get a prize, right? And so, but those of you, especially who've had young children, I can prove to you with mathematical certainty that you have done CBT with your kid. I can prove it right this second. Are you ready? Here I go. Clean up, everybody clean up, clean up. Yeah, that's stuck in your head now, right? You remember that pretty well, don't you? Yeah, that's CBT. Okay. Yeah, Amy, you got it, don't you? You're taking it back a little bit, ain't it, Amy? Yeah. So yeah, again, remember this stage, a lot of repetition, a lot of repetition, a lot of repetition. And so yeah, that's it. That's what it looks like. I have an argument that CBT is actually easier in young children. And here's my proof. I, Dr. Gomez, believed in Santa Claus till I was 13. Okay. Here's why that is. Again, I was raised by my three uncles, all who were Vietnam Marines. My uncle Jojo, I'm about 6 at this time, maybe 5 or 6. Santa stuff doesn't seem like it holds water, guys, right? Doesn't make sense to me. So I asked my Theo Jojo, I said, Theo Jojo, by the way, he smoked and cussed like a Marine. And I said, Theo Jojo, is Santa real, Theo? He'll, you want, I am like 6 at the most at this point. And he goes, you want to know, kid, if Santa Claus is real? Yes, sir. I'd like to know. I can tell you if Santa Claus were. Would you like to know? Yes, I would. Santa Claus is 1000% real. He lives a mile underneath the North Pole, surrounded by a squadron of Marines. We call him Kringle Prime. Santa's at the mall. Decoys. They get capped. Christmas still goes on, kid. Area 51 technology gets them around the globe in 24 hours. And I'm like, oh my God! It's so good. Oh my God, it's so cool. I am now 13 in junior high at lunch in December, and I say just what I told you. And one of my friends turns to me and goes, "It's the dumbest I ever heard come out of your mouth, dude." Yeah, I don't believe that. Let's just see, like, if you believe that, I'm a joking, obviously, joke, because I don't believe in Santa, because I believe in Santa. I was friggin' 13 because he popped the cognition in my brain and it never left. Okay. So CBT is actually way easier to do with like a 3-year-old than it is to do with like a 18-year-old. And so, because some of you on this call still believe because your mom or dad told you, you still believe to this day in your adulthood, if you turn on the light in a car while you're driving, you will get arrested. Some of you still believe that, don't you? Yeah, I know. So I got caught. Some of you called out some of you right now, didn't I? Yes, you do, right? Don't you, Monica? Right, Erica? Yeah, you still believe that, okay? Because they plop the cognition in your head, and it I actually had a friend recently got pulled over. Her tail light was out, but because she's very anxious, she goes, "Officer, I'm sorry, my light was on in the car." He's like, "What are you doing?" Like, or yeah, turning on the AC will waste the gas. Another one, Debbie. And he goes, "Why are you apologizing for your light being on inside?" Because she thought it was illegal. Her mom had told her it was illegal. She just did like, and so she found out at 32 that that's not an actual thing, that her mom just plopped the cognition in their head. Okay. Yeah, exactly. They can never be combined, Erica, right? Like, yeah, so that you got those very early on. That's why they stuck, because it's easier to do this. It's wet concrete. Okay? Now, TFCBT has massive amounts of data, and a lot of people associate it with like teenagers. But yeah, Mariana, the new generation won't believe us, Mariana. So, but actually, the original name for this model was the following: PTSD treatment for sexually abused preschoolers and their non-offending caregivers. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. The first up until or we started the first randomized controlled trial in 1995. Up until 2000, no kid was above single digit. We thought this was going to be a preschool model because our thought was, 6 versus 16, right? Let's do it earlier. But we kept getting asked to do to work with older kids. And VIX technically does cure everything, Priscilla. I still kind of believe that one, okay? But yeah, so this model has a ton of data. It has over 20 randomized controlled trials, over 80 peer-reviewed studies, has over tens of thousands of certified therapists across the planet. TFCBT has been done on every continent on this earth except for Antarctica. And in our defense, the penguins were not very happy with that. And so this stuff works. And part of the reason I shifted to these kind of treatments and things that weren't non-directive, things that didn't have evidence behind them, is when I when I first started doing therapy, I did school-based, home-based, office-based. So I did all three settings, and I would have a parent of a like a 4 or 5 year old kid say, "Hey, Mr. Michael, how long is it going to take my boy to get over this stuff?" I'd say, "Well, there's a lot of things you have to factor in. There's kind of like ecological factors, social cultural factors, attachment bonding. We have to look at diagnostic status. We also have to look at response to intervention. We have to also keep in mind that it's a leap year, it's a summer solstice, and Sagittarius is in orbit." Now, like, I don't know, man. I BS my way through that question. Do I have no therapy ends? I have no idea. Like, no one said that. And so I felt that was horrible of me that I could, like, I can't answer that question. So now here with TFCBT, here's how I answer that question. Dr. Gomez, you say my child has traumatic stress. How long is it going to take for them to get better? Well, Ms. Guzman, what we're going to look at is what kind of trauma they have. They can have what we call PTSD, which is kind of like strep throat, or something called complex developmental trauma, which is like antibiotic resistant strep throat. Either way, they are going to be responsive to this therapy. For a young child, 5 or younger, 12 sessions, start to finish. We may do other things with them, things like parent-child interaction therapy, but really, we're done. We can maybe do it even less. Bigger kids, bigger problems. Younger kids, shorter time. Regardless of which kind your kid has, in 4 sessions, you should see an improvement. And if you're not, let's talk, and I want to see what's going on, provided you're doing everything I'm asking you. And yeah, that's a totally different answer. And so, yeah, very different answer. And Mariana, you are not wrong. I still believe that one too. She will come and get us if we stay out past 11. Okay. I don't know about time zones, but so maybe Pacifics get in by 9. I have no idea. But yes, that is a true one. I will believe that till the day I die, Mariana. And El Kukui, that's what I was gonna say, that Alejandro El Kukui, he'll come after you, man. That dude's like everywhere, dude. I was in New England. I didn't think Kukuis went to New England, but apparently they can do that too. So, yes, those are y'all are still thinking of them. I got you on that. I called everyone out on that one. Now, again, this has a ton of data on it, but the one I want you to pay attention to on this slide is the parent outcome. The parents actually get improved in this model without us doing therapy with them. Like we talked about earlier, through the mouths of babes, we deliver it there. Oh, you got to tell me about that one later for Priscilla El Chamuco. And like, oh, I know El Coco. I know that one. This makes me so happy. Thank you so much, Alma. And so the child ones are obvious, but the parent ones, they see their particular like recovery too within their kids. Because a lot of parents, they just want their kids to get better. Okay? And this is what the model looks like. Now, when I say parent on here, you can read caregiver. It doesn't have to be a bio or adopted parent. When we say caregiver, parent and caregiver are interchangeable for us. We mean bio parent, adoptive, foster, abuelo, abuela, tío, tía, literal big brother, metaphorical big brother, teacher, inpatient floor staff, CASA, GAL, JPO, coach, like any adult besides you has interaction with this kid. Standardly, we do phase 1, which is the coping phase, psychoed, relaxation, affect, and coping, narrative and processing, and then we finish it up with in vivo if they need it, conjoint sessions and safety. With a little kid, this is why I like talking to people who work 0 to 5. With like a 3-year-old, 8 sessions done. The shortest TFCT I did was a 3-year-old boy, 8 sessions in and out. Because there was a sexual assault. He did have a memory of it. The kind of differential between this model and the other two we talked about is if they have a memory of the trauma, pick this one. Okay. If they don't, you might want to look at CPP or PCIT because it helps them kind of process it a little bit different without like a consolidated memory. But if they for sure have a memory, like they're having nightmares about it, intrusive thoughts, I would default to this one. Now, for younger kids, like for IDD kids who are not neurotypical, we can double the phases and we can shift the proportionality. So more coping, more stabilization, for the kid and for the caregiver. So this isn't locked in stone. Like you have to do it this way. There's ways we can modify the model to make it more flexible, more accommodating for the families in the scenarios we work with. So you got a 5-year-old who's neurotypical. This will look more like what you're doing. You got a 5-year-old with Down syndrome. This will look more like what you're doing. And thank you, Clarissa, for the example of it. Like for kids with Down syndrome will require a little bit more time, so we can't get it done in 8 sessions. But probably in about 20, we'd probably be fine in 20. So it's just going to take a little more time, and that's okay. Now, this book, if you're interested in this model, I would highly, highly recommend this particular book. Not this one, but this one, Treating PTSD in Preschoolers. This is kind of a time capsule. This is what the model looked like circa like 1995. And it's still a really good a way of how to do this model. Those of you who are treatment providers, if you're deciding between this model and the other two, this will give you a good differential. So if you read this book and you're like, this does not apply to my 3-year-old at all, then don't pick this model. Pick one of the other two we talked about. But if you read this and you're thinking, actually, this fits really well with what they went through, then I would default to this model. It's encapsulated. I also will mention for every one of these models, there are training programs. I'm a certified trainer in TFCBT. I got certified in PCIT, CBP. I'm not certified in, very familiar and love it. But this will help you like when you get down into the weeds with this stuff, because it gets pretty weedy pretty quickly. Um, Now we're gonna take a field trip to Oklahoma, and I promise it'll be more fun than it sounds. Okay, so here we go. Getting close to the end, folks. We got this. Okay. No one really wants to hear me talk for 2 hours. I'm very aware of that. So this will be over in a second. Okay, I promise you. This will be very painless. So go here, go to resources. This has everything. Do you need a trauma screener for a very young child, 0 to 5? There you go. Michael Schringer, the guy who wrote that manual. All right, no, I need some information on domestic violence and play. Bob's your uncle. There you go, man. We got NCTSN right here. What I actually need is something on parenting, like on like behavior management, like a behavior plan. There you go. Behavior chart right there. Done. This has all your stuff in it. Okay. Everything for the whole model. Also, how to work with kids who sexually act out, how to work with Spanish language resources, very early childhood resources too. The very, very bottom. Things like Hello Kitty thoughts, feeling ID, everything's here. Don't have to know everyone, don't have to know everything, just where to find anything. Your TFCBT storybook. When Billy was little, he lived with his mom. Their house was in Fresno. Billy liked mom's cooking. Billy did not like mom's boyfriends. Billy felt sad in his old house. One day, child welfare moved Billy to a new house. He moved because mom was using drugs. Child welfare moved Billy from his old house to his new house. When he moved, he felt scared. When he moved, he thought, I'll never see mom again. Now, but there we go. That's how we talk about like placement disruption in foster care. And I'll put that I'll definitely put that in the link for you, Debbie. Don't worry about that. Man, Haley beat me. God, you're so good, Haley, so good. All of these are free public domain. We want you to steal shamelessly and share relentlessly, as the national network would say. Some of these script for TSCBT, we do advise the training just so that you can like it'll get you more familiar. It's very in Cali, it's very publicly available. It's available all over the world. But some of these things, fidelity is extremely important for our model, especially in TFCBT. So, for example, if you're doing, for example, the pirate script, if you want to do this to fidelity, because fidelity is the most important thing for an evidence-based treatment, you have to do the voice. You, Priscilla, are the strongest, most famous pirate on the 7 seas, and you just returned from long months on the ocean, sailing and sailing in search of ancient hidden treasure, Priscilla. Don't ask another trainer, or anybody, or the developer. Just try. You don't ask anyone. You have to do the voice. Okay, it's a fidelity thing. Just try. Don't ask anyone. True, it's a true thing. Okay. Yeah, don't ask anyone. So now. I like this Dr. Joy Sosky, who does a lot of work with our littles in CPP. Kids show stress, but they also show resilience. I really like that. Now, the last thing I wanted to finish on, and I may have time for questions. Apologies if I rushed, if I didn't have enough. I forgot to tell you my philosophy of therapy. Um, and so um, my philosophy of therapy is the fastest way I can describe it is this. Ready? I was asked to by here in West Texas, a school counselor who runs an elementary school on my side of town. She said we need a Hispanic doctor to talk to the fifth graders for Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm like, I'm not that kind of doctor. She goes, they're friggin' fifth graders. They don't know. Okay. So I thought it was gonna be a fifth grade classroom, two fifth grade classrooms in a gym, and I followed a firefighter. It's like I saved lives. I'm like, feelings, stress balls. I was like, these aren't ED fits. I can do this. So, and they were very polite. They were very, and so I say I'm a therapist a lot. That's what I say a lot. And I say that a lot. And at the end, I ask kids any questions. Again, fifth grade kids. And this little sharp freaking cookie in the front row goes, I have a question. I have a question. I have a question. Okay, what's your question? What's a therapist? Oh, freaking Rachel Maddow in the front row. How do you answer that for like a 10-year-old kid, right? Well, you got to graduate from undergrad and go to an APA accredited program and take the GR. You can't say that, man. You can't. I had nothing. So out of thin air, I pulled this out, and this has been my philosophy of therapy. Ready? I said, all right, who here seen Dumbo? I think it was around the time the live action one came out. And so all the kids, I've seen Dumbo. And I point to the little girl. I say, little girl, loud enough where all 50 people can hear it. Can you tell people in Dumbo, what is the feather? What's the feather in Dumbo? And she goes, well, in Dumbo, Dumbo's friend gives him a magic feather that helps him fly. But this Russian's like a liar. Doesn't help him fly. Just thought it helped him fly. He didn't need the feather to fly. He could fly without the feather the whole time. He was lying. He didn't need. He could fly without it. It's a therapist. That's it. Didn't need me, Dumbo. Fly the whole time without me. That's it. I'm not the magic you are. I really, truly believe that. It doesn't have to be your philosophy of therapy. You can if you want it, but that's mine. Outside of this job, I will be very honest, I am a nihilist. I am Matthew McConaughey from True Detective season one. Okay. Time is a flat circle, Maria, and we are all a misstep in evolution. Okay. I think we're all doomed and good. We suck. As like we're awful as a species. Let penguins come up next. We're not doing a great job right now, right? It's like also, wouldn't that be adorable? The little hats in a briefcase, right? Also, no infidelity because they're penguins. Okay. I think I'm onto something here. So I'm done. I'm done with everyone. Okay. And except there's one problem with that is the kids I work with. The reason I work with teens a lot, I do work with littles, obviously, but teens enhance my worldview. The life sucks. Yeah, it does, man. So I work well with them, but I have like little kids, like kids are like 5, and like, people are good. No, they're not. People are awful. Like, not all of them, most of them. And this little tiny person still has hope and joy and wants to interact and believes that we can still make it and that, yeah, people are okay. And I'm like, God damn it, man. All right, if you show up to play, man, you show up to the game. How can I do any less, my friend? All right, I'll keep showing up. I'll keep giving people a chance. I'll keep trying. It's as hard as it is in this freaking world that just is cruel and petty and mean and spiteful. I'll try because you're trying. The only reason I have hope is my kids. That's it. It's the only reason. Which brings me to the very last thing. Okay? The most powerful therapy tool you can use that I found in 25 years of doing this job. When you're in an interaction with a parent, with a kid, with a little, with a middle, with a big, doesn't matter, with an adult, here is the thing you're going to use. This is your break glass in case of emergency. It's the most powerful thing you can do in the moment when you are in that bond. You have no idea what to do. Everything's blown up. Here it is. Are you ready for it? This is what it is. Here's your most powerful therapy tool right now. Yeah, it's like 15 seconds of silence. It was killing somebody else, right? Yeah. Stop. Just be. That's it. think a lot of our job, we're made to do things so much faster. You got to do this and that, and you have this deadline. And I understand that. I've been in this job for 2.5 decades. But no, we're gonna take a moment. Like even if it's the part of my rationale for that is this. Every time I finish a case with a family, whatever the age, whatever the presentation, whatever I'm doing, I ask the question, what could I have done better? What did you appreciate? What did I do well? But it's kind of like customer service thing. I got again that habit just so I can be a better therapist. What I want them to say is I want the kid to say, that cognitive triangle you did in session 9 I was like, that's what I want them to say because I spent most of my life training to get that good. But here's what they always say, like especially like my teens, they'll go, what's the most helpful thing, Dr. G? You kept it real, man. No, don't. That's the wrong answer. I've been keeping it real since high school. Man, I didn't need to get a PhD. I didn't go to like 6 digits of student loan debt to keep it real. Okay, I was keeping it real back in the 90s, man. Like, I don't need no different answer, new answer. Like, no, there's always something like that. Like, we could trust you. Like, no, people could trust me decades ago. I didn't need to freaking go to graduate school and get a doctorate degree. Nope, that's it. That's the thing. What's that? I think it's like Maya Angelou quote. People don't remember what you said, but how you made them feel. And I think sometimes we forget that we're trying to do too much. Like, stop, pause, silent, and be. I think some of the most important interactions that you have already had and that you will have in your career are just being. That's it. You'll hear me also say, last thing I'll say, and I'll pass it back like to Casey to you, is when especially my newbies, like my green therapists, my green trainees are really scared to work with these families. They don't want to mess it up. I'll say they survived the trauma, they will survive the recovery, and so will you. This kid survived 2 years of rape. They'll survive 6 months of therapy, 6 months of TFCBT, PCIT. You will too. There is nothing you could possibly do that would harm them more than they already have been. You're not going to fail them because you don't want to fail them. Most of my kids have never had that person. They've never had you, by the way. They've never had you, a person who does not want to fail, who is so worried about failing that it keeps you up at night, doesn't it? So you won't fail. They survived that. They'll survive this. You will too. I know you will. I promise you, you will. So, last but certainly not least, before I pass it off to Casey, very last thing. Do you know what is the greatest gift anyone can receive in his or her lifetime? The greatest gift you can receive is to have the chance just once in your life to make a difference. I hope everyone on this call knows how many times they've already made a difference. Enough for 100 lifetimes. Dr. Strange speaking to Peter Parker. And last but not least, your zombie killing name. I have been the Mad Double Tap. I appreciate you very, very much. I know this was a lot of time for you to take out of your day, so thank you so very much. I appreciate every one of you and the work you're doing. I'm going to pass it back to Phantom Beast. Oh my God, that's amazing. Done, you win.
Is
That's
that
it.
me? That's my zombie
You're
name?
Phantom Beast.
I
Yeah,
love it.
I like
Okay.
Haley's. Haley's is Atomic Slayer. I think you might have beaten her with Phantom Beast. Okay, I'm
Phantom
done.
Beast is pretty serious.
It's
And
hardcore.
also, I just want to say, for any of the participants who are in today's training and you come to another training, if you put in there my nickname, Phantom Beast, that'll be our little inside joke for future trainings. But thank you so much, Dr. Gomez, for presenting today. I just wanted to say that I think that the children and families of this world are very lucky to have you and the work that you do. And so this was my first training with Dr. Gomez, and I absolutely loved it. I was enthralled the entire time. I was giggling. And so I just loved today's training. I hope you all did too. So, with it being 11:59 Pacific Standard Time, that means we have to wrap up. And I'm so sad because I don't want this training to end. I could listen to you forever, Dr. Gomez.
I
I
would
mean, I
never.
could talk to you about anything. But thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for giving your wonderful insight, your lived experience, everything that you talked about today. And thank you all for showing up. We always love to have you. And I hope if this is your first training, I hope this training got you hooked for more future CalTrin trainings. Haley is going to drop the link in the chat for you to click on. Once you open that up, please feel free. to log off, you can click that link in the survey to open it up in a different window. That means you can log off here on Zoom. And I hope you have a wonderful day.